Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Produce Buzzers podcast fans, and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of theproducebuzz.com, joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the president and founder of producebuzz.com, and Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetto, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. You know, consumers have always despaired at the reality of the perishability of fruits and vegetables and how easy it is to lose them to rot or decay before having a chance to eat them. But now that inflation is here and stinging us in the, back pocket, throwing away those veggies is even more painful. Even before the pandemic and the steep rise in costs we have seen over the past year, tossing out those moldy berries or sprouting potatoes has discouraged people from eating more fresh fruits and vegetables. But the Produce Buzzers are here to help. Today, we are going to show you how to make your fruits and veggies last longer. We're going to take a look at 10 or so popular fruits and vegetables that frustrate us the most when it comes to decay and loss in our pantries and our refrigerators. But before we get into that, I want to take a look at what are the most popular fruits and veggies over the past year. Then we will isolate those in that list that are the most difficult to store and preserve and give you some tips on how to keep them fresh. Every year, a major trade journal from the produce industry titled The Packer surveys customers to see which of the fruits and veggies they are buying most often. This year's survey was released in the spring, and it was once again a survey of 1,000 consumers across the U.S. The survey asked them not only about what they were purchasing, but also how their buying habits have changed in the face of the pandemic and inflation. According to the report, the pandemic had a profound impact on the way in which consumers shop for food, including fresh produce. And now, despite shoppers returning to in-store purchasing, dining in restaurants, and other pre-COVID-19 habits, some pandemic effects continue to linger. Specifically, rising inflation and food costs related to the pandemic are now influencing consumer purchasing habits in new ways. With regard to inflated food prices over the past 18 months, consumers reported employing a number of money-saving strategies, such as cutting back on other areas of their budget to continue purchasing the same amount and types of food, or simply buying less. And while other habits formed during the pandemic, such as online ordering, curbside pickup, and home delivery for groceries and fresh items, are clearly here to stay, the survey found that these behaviors have lessened since 2021. Of those who said they had discontinued using online shopping, most, about 47%, cited their desire to be able to touch and smell produce themselves as the reason for going back to in-person shopping. We Produce Buzzers can identify with that. I do not trust anyone else.
I would barely trust you, Edwin.
Or the same to you, Cynthia. The pandemic also influenced some consumer purchasing decisions around packaged produce. Well, last year's Fresh Trends report found that over the course of 2020, 79% of respondents said they bought packaged produce. This year in 2022, that number ticked up to 82%. The majority of survey respondents indicated that they plan to buy more packaged fresh produce over the next 12 months. One positive thing in this year's report is that most respondents said they are buying more fresh fruit, much more fresh produce than 5 years ago, 69% said that. And even 1 year ago, 64% said they are buying more fresh produce than in the past. That may be due to the fact that a large percentage said they were eating at home much more often than before the pandemic. About half of the people said they are eating at home much more often now. Okay, so enough about trends and the shopping habits. What are consumers buying most in the produce aisle? Produce buzzers. Care to guess what was the number one produce item on shopping lists over the past year?
Bananas.
Ah, yes, Cynthia, way to go. Bananas, of course. We know that they are always at the top of the list. What else do you think's at the top of the list? How about a veggie this time?
Broccoli.
Yep, broccoli is up there. It's not the next most popular thing. It's about, where does it come in? About number 9 or 10.
Lettuce?
Well, interesting. Yes, lettuce is actually less than broccoli. Now, I should explain that these the consumers were asked which of these, they were given a list of items to choose from, and they were asked which of these they had purchased in the last 12 months. So interestingly, 46% said they had bought broccoli, but only 43% said they had bought lettuce.
Now, was it specific on lettuces, or was it romaine, or anything that you could make a salad from?
The info I have from the report just says lettuce. So that could be probably iceberg, romaine.
Yeah, and I haven't bought iceberg lettuce in 10 years.
But it didn't say iceberg lettuce. It just says lettuce. So it could be
that include the packaged salads.
Well, it's interesting. 44% said they had bought a salad mix, while only 43% said they had bought lettuce.
I don't buy the bag salads.
Which, if you combine those two, it would probably be more like 65%.
That's a good point.
Who actually bought lettuce.
I get you.
Yes, it's in the salad mix.
That's a good point. So that would make sense. That would push it up quite a bit. And they didn't isolate specific types of lettuce in this, as far as I can see. But the number one veggie, you've got to get. Come on.
Oh, so we're guessing again? Strawberries?
No. Number one veggie.
Carrots.
Tomato. But that's really a fruit. Potatoes.
Yeah.
Is that a vegetable? Really?
No.
Is it a vegetable?
It's not a fruit. Yeah, it's a vegetable. It's a root. It's a root vegetable. It's a root vegetable.
A tuber.
Yeah.
And you can get tuber one.
Has to be the green part of the plant,
Well, they call it a root vegetable.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. It can't be. It's either a vegetable or fruit, right? Or a mushroom.
Well, some people call mushrooms vegetables, even though they're not.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so bananas were number one. Potatoes were number two. Tomatoes are number three.
Oh, I got 1, 2, and 3.
Onions number 4.
Of course.
Strawberries number 5. So Cynthia, you picked strawberries. That was quite a bit high up there.
4 out of 5 so far.
And then grapes and apples tied for number 6. Watermelon was next. I'm sorry, carrots was next, then watermelon, then oranges, and bell peppers and broccoli tied at 46%.
Okay.
But this is what people say they are buying.
That's what they say they're buying. So there could be.
Why, you think they're being phony balonies?
Well, I may not remember too well.
Yeah. If you look at volume bought.
Oh, no, this is not volume. This is just, they were asked, which of these did you purchase in the last 12 months?
Right.
So volume wise, this list would certainly change.
So they could have bought chestnuts in the past 12 months, but a very small quantity. So yeah.
I don't know. I think they were given a list of things to choose from. So I don't know. Maybe at the end they said, what else would you add to this? I don't know. I didn't get enough into the report. Didn't see that anyway. Okay, I thought our listeners would find that interesting, and maybe they might want to share on our Facebook page the fresh fruits and veggies they bought most over the past year. Visit Produce Buzz on Facebook and let us know. And let us know if you bought any unusual fruits and veggies that didn't appear on this list of most popular ones. Perhaps you have some that are very popular in your household that you buy more often than these things. So now that we've seen what are the most purchased items in the produce aisle, let's focus on some of them that we have the most difficult time with as far as using up before they go bad. And the Produce Buzzers will tell you today how to select and store those to make sure you can use them before you lose them. So let's begin. We're going to start with strawberries, and I'll lump berries in there too, because we have one of the world's foremost experts on how to take care of your strawberries and berries, and that is Teresa Nolan. Teresa, can you help our listeners?
Oh, I hope I don't disappoint them since that great buildup comes in. But fresh strawberries can deteriorate quite quickly after they're purchased. So you have to watch them. The major culprit being mold or botrytis sometimes, which is a type of mold.
Botrytis. No, is that another pandemic? Are we going to have a botrytis pandemic next year, Teresa?
It's when your strawberries grow a beard, that little white beard that they can grow. Ooh, yeah.
Is that what the mold is called? Is it all the mold, or are there different kinds of molds?
I'm sure there are other types of mold, but that's the most commonly seen, I think.
I've seen those beards.
Yes. So you can keep them a bit fresher if you'll wait to wash them just before eating, and they'll actually taste better if you do that too. And you want to store them in the refrigerator. Some say in a paper towel lined basket or bowl. That would keep the moisture from causing more mold. I've never done that. I usually just store them in the container that they come in. Strawberries are a natural for long-term preservation. They can be made into shelf-stable jam or fruit leather. Can't say I've ever done that, unless it was an accident. And they freeze beautifully, either sliced or whole. To freeze them, just wash them, take the hulls off, pat them dry, place on a cookie sheet in the freezer for at least 8 hours. Overnight is easier. And when the berries are frozen solid, transfer to a resealable bag and store them in the freezer. I do remember when I was young, the recipe for freezing strawberries used to end with dump a bunch of sugar on top of them. Some of you may have had that. But you don't need to. The berries we get today are very, very sweet.
Yeah, the varieties. We've talked about that on the show before, the varieties.
But when you do macerate the strawberries, it makes it for a very nice addition for
yes.
There's Cynthia's sweet tooth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. But when you've got them all sliced and you put just a tiny bit of sugar on it, that draws the juices out. That's what I think most people like about putting a little bit of sugar on them.
Yeah.
And, of course, try to get your palate retrained, Cynthia. Let's not result to additional sugar on the fruit. You can store them in the refrigerator for maximum freshness, and they'll stay fresh for up to 8 days. However, when the berries begin to spoil, according to the internet, you can't simply cut off or toss the piece of moldy fruit. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've cut off a lot of mold from strawberries and eaten the other part. But, maybe somebody knows something I don't know. They say that the mold grows beneath the surface and can be difficult to see. And it also spreads quickly to nearby fruit. So you're going to look at the nearby fruit and see if you can see that it's spread. And in that case, you might want to be safe and just toss it out. Blueberries.
It's hard to do that, though, isn't it? I've done the same thing. I'm like,
what?
I can't throw this berry away.
I saw one of these things online, and I did it with blueberries and I did it with blackberries. And it's like to put it in a colander, but so you could submerge the berries with water, distilled vinegar, and some baking soda. And so I will grant you that it did generate a lot of stuff at the bottom of the bowl of water.
So is this for cleaning?
Yes, this is what the person suggested, like to
You're not talking
clean
about
slash
storing them. You're just
yeah, no, and
okay.
it
All right.
was her opinion that you
Okay.
pop it in a container, and you can have berries. You know, it keeps your berries fresh for a couple weeks, she said. Meanwhile, I did it yesterday, and today they look like they would have been much better had I not added, you know, the moisture to them all, because then the breakdown was just so bad. And luckily we'll blow through them, but I would have to disagree with that hack, if you will.
Yeah.
Well, and I bet they don't taste as good.
No, they did, because
it.
it was mostly water. You add some distilled vinegar, and like the baking soda is like,
But you rinse them
negligible.
off after.
yeah, of course, yes.
Ugh. Okay.
I know. I was kind of like, I don't know. And then, like, you know, so I didn't tell my husband, because then he'd, like, you know, get squirmy about it. He'd gobble
Yeah.
them down today. He couldn't tell the difference, nor could I. But
Yeah.
I
I
just
would
saw.
freeze them before I would do that. I
Yeah.
would put them in the freezer before I would put vinegar and baking soda on them.
But I'm telling you, there was a lot of stuff in that water.
Yeah.
Any bugaboos?
I didn't find any bugs.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of
I've
dirt
seen a
and like
hack
stuff
like that for
Mhm.
strawberries, and they show, you know, the videos showed these little bugs coming out of the strawberries. Have you seen those?
No.
I didn't believe the video.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see
Ah,
a
this is not-
bibliography.
There's no bugs coming out of these strawberries.
That's the
Strawberries
protein.
have protein also.
Right.
Strawberries have protein.
Yeah.
Good bacteria.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Anything
Well,
else about how to preserve our berries and make them last? long?
raspberries are even more fragile
Yeah.
than strawberries. And so you want to use those as quickly as you can. That would be my advice on that.
It's about all you can do. Just eat them up or freeze them.
Yeah.
Again, you can freeze them, but
Yeah.
you know, you want to use them.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, when I buy them, I want to eat them fresh. They're never as good frozen, but, and I always think, okay, well, I got a good deal on this big pack from
Mhm.
Costco or wherever.
Mhm.
And I watch them day after day after day, but I always miss the last point. I usually have to
Yeah.
pull them out.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. All right. Okay. So let's go to the number one produce item on our consumers list, bananas.
Banana.
And we have another world-class expert on how to keep and preserve bananas. Cynthia Benedetto, can you help our consumers?
Now, if I have to quote my information, it's probably so old that it's like, you know, irrelevant now. But bananas are those things that, you know, sometimes they force you to buy the organic bananas, which are 10 or 20 cents more expensive a pound.
How do they force you to buy organic?
Because the
they
organics
don't have the others?
No, the other ones are green, or
Oh, okay.
they've had cold damage, so they're that gray,
Okay.
which, you know, depending on where that happened along the delivery slash ripening route.
While you're on this, we should remind our listeners that Cynthia worked for Dole Fruit Company, and she was very involved in the whole process of how bananas.
It taught people how to ripen their bananas.
Yeah, the retailers and instructed
Wholesalers.
them.
Mhm.
And she knows the supply chain very well on bananas and what can go wrong in that supply chain. So that's kind of what she's referring to right now.
So, so they are, if they're yellow, they will sell. And so when they're all yellow on the organic side and the other ones are green, you know, and I want to eat them, you know, today, then that's how I think it's forced. But I also go down the aisle that they usually have with fruit. I mean, with cereal, and they will have like the leftover bananas that are very ripe and not ripe where they're spotted, but you should eat it today or tomorrow. And it'll be like, they're generally the ones that get pulled off. And so they're all singles, but that's a perfect thing to look for. And those are generally not organics.
Right. That's their merchandising technique to make the,
or just like to help with their shrink, because
Right.
then it's merchandising it. But so I just keep them at room temperature, and then it'll go two ways. So once they're full yellow, no green tips, and I'm not going to eat them, they will either one go down the path of becoming an ingredient for my banana bread. So then I will let it get just disgustingly dark, black, nearly rotten. And then I pop it in the freezer for banana bread. Or if it's not going to go that way, then once they are starting to show some spots, then they go in the refrigerator. But that's after they're full.
You like them pretty ripe.
No, I like them a number 6, just full ripe, yellow, ready to go.
Okay.
Ready to eat right then and there. I don't want to wait till tomorrow. Like, that's my favorite way to eat them.
I like them almost green, not too green, but on the green side. There's a little tartness still in them. That's the way I like them. But the point is that once, because everybody likes them at a different stage, or I'm saying everybody, a lot of people like them at different stages. I like them a little on the green side. You like them right at the perfect ripeness. But once you get them to that stage, you can pop them in the refrigerator, and then they'll hold for a while, won't they?
Yes.
Yeah. At that ripeness. Now, and as I understand it, the skin can turn black in the refrigerator, but the fruit inside will be pretty much where you look.
And what my husband will do is, if he's using a half a banana, he'll put the other half in the refrigerator, which then the end of it oxidizes and it looks awful. And then the peel will turn a bad color. But if you just cut off the end and peel it off, it's Cynthia, remarkably very
Cynthia, who eats a half a banana? What's wrong?
I know. What's wrong with them? How much time you got? How much time you got?
Well, in food service and elementary schools, they usually cut the bananas in half. You give little kids.
Well, no, you get the small bananas, or like in food service, or you get the 100 count, but potatoes, sweet potatoes.
They also cut them in half in the school system. They will, for little kids, they may not eat a whole banana, so they leave the peel on and just slice them in half. And so I'm sure a lot of parents do that as well, because they don't want the kid to throw half of the banana in the trash.
That's true.
Yeah. I have to tell you that I have no qualms about going through the banana display and taking off the bananas I want from the different hands of bananas there, rather than trying to find just the right size.
And so do you buy them at different stages? You have one at a 3, one at a 4, one.
Yes. And yes. So that way you got them,
I always break a hand too, because invariably the one I want have like 8 bananas. And it's just too much.
And I usually break them from the underside, because they haven't been slammed on the counter by somebody in the store to bruise the back of them. I don't know whether you've noticed that or not.
The underside, what do you mean?
Well, you know how the hand kind of curves in?
Right.
The underneath side is not as vulnerable to get bruised. I have seen so much mishandling of bananas in stores where when they put them on, they just drop them on the display. And the next thing you know, there's bruising on that outer side of the banana.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So if they've put tape around the banana so that you buy the whole bunch, do you cut the tape?
No. The only ones that tape them are the the organic ones, I think. The organic ones usually have the tape on them.
That's what I
Right,
say.
but they
depends on the
also,
store.
but it's not just to differentiate between organic or non-organic, because they usually all have stickers on them. So, you'd be found out then. So unless you
A lot of
wanted to
the club
switch a
stores
sticker. What?
A lot of the club stores do them like in a 3-pound bunch, and they'll put tape around it so
Yes.
they
I've
weigh it out
seen
at
that.
3 pounds, and that also keeps people from tampering. For the most part, it keeps them from tampering with them.
Tampering
Well, they
what?
also sell them as a flat price in those bags.
Yeah,
So
That's-
they're not equipped to weigh 1 or 2 bananas out.
right.
So you have to be able to consume that many, and which you probably could if you don't mind putting them in the refrigerator. But
hmm
I have found some stores have very low banana prices, and it's a lot easier to buy, a few at the lower price.
hmm
For me, if you have a big family, the packaged route is probably the way to go.
Sure.
So we're going to see a lot of broken hands in the banana aisle. Now.
And Teresa,
Yeah.
you've never been scolded for picking the bananas off of different hands?
Never. Have you?
No.
And let
Okay.
me ask you, who in the hell do you think would have the audacity to give Teresa a mouth?
If Cynthia did not know Teresa,
Uh-huh.
and you encountered each other in the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
and Cynthia saw Teresa doing something with
Oh,
furniture,
you'd say, like, what are you going to fondle them all, lady?
And I would say, yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Any more advice for our listeners about bananas, Cynthia?
No.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much. That's great. Okay. So now we're going to turn to one of the veggies on the list today, or two of the veggies, actually, that really they hold up quite well. They last a long time. But I think we've all experienced the disappointment of seeing these two things poop out on us, to start to sprout. Potatoes and onions. And Rick is going to help our listeners today about how best to store those, because oftentimes we want to buy those in big quantities. Those are the things you buy 5-pound bags of because the price is good, and it's just more convenient in a lot of ways than picking out by the piece, especially if you have a family. So, Rick, can you help our listeners today with potatoes and onions and how best to store those?
Yes, the main thing with potatoes and onions is to store them in a cool, dry place in darkness, if possible. So a lot of people put them in their basements or a root cellar, which you don't see that very often now anymore, a root cellar. But in the old days, they would store potatoes. Well, actually, the potatoes we buy out of the store during the wintertime have been in cellars. They've been stored underground. And that's the best way to do it, if you can put them in total darkness and maybe around 50 degrees.
Interesting. I don't mean to interrupt, but I do mean to interrupt. I hadn't thought about that. The potatoes aren't growing all year round. They have a season where they come in, and I guess, they are different times of the years and certain growing regions like California where they can grow them almost year round. But you're talking about potatoes being harvested in the spring. So if you're getting them in
the fall, actually.
In the fall? Okay. All right. Yeah. So
like the typical Idaho russet potato or Wisconsin russet potato.
Right.
They're harvested in the fall, and then they put them in the ground. Basically, they have something like a root cellar. And so they commercially store them that way.
Right.
So that's the most ideal way, is total darkness, maybe around 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
So if you're buying a potato in June, a russet anyway, let's just stick with that, from Idaho.
Right.
That potato was harvested 9 months earlier. So
Correct.
It had to be stored somehow.
Correct.
So that's good news for us as potato purchasers, that they can. How long can a potato be stored? I'm sorry to bring up these questions. I'm interrupting you, but
really a year, because
Yeah.
like, for example, in Idaho, there's one growing season. They harvest them in the fall. They put them in storage, and they'll have those right up until the next crop comes in.
Right.
And people who store potatoes use what they call sprout inhibitors on them after a certain point.
Oh,
It can inhibit the cell division. And so they never use it on seed potatoes, but it does inhibit the growth of sprouts.
do they
What's a
put
seed
those on
potato? What's a seed potato?
That's a potato that they use to grow other potatoes.
the next crop? So when do they
They want them
apply
to
that?
sprout a seed potato.
Usually, I don't know how long after they've been picked. They don't apply that immediately, but they do put it on a little bit later.
Well, you should know. Teresa's represented the Maine Potato Board, and did you do some work for?
Where's Spuddy
Idaho?
when we need him?
Yeah.
Teresa, do you
Funny.
remember how they stored the potatoes in Maine? Did you ever see the storage?
The
Yeah.
ones I remember seeing were big, almost like cavern like covers, and they just put them inside. They were dark, and it was very chilly in there, but it was not freezing cold.
But
But
they,
that's
you mean it
been,
was an earth. It was dirt.
it was dirt. Yeah,
Yeah.
the ones I remember, they were.
So the closer you can simulate that at home, the better. I prefer not to put mine in my basement, because one time I put 10 pounds down there and forgot about them, and I came about 12 months later and they were rotting and sprouting, and I had 10 pounds of rotten potatoes in my closet.
Nothing smells worse. Nothing smells worse.
Yeah. But we have a potato drawer in our kitchen. It's a large drawer with plenty of air space. And so I take brown paper bags and cut the paper bag down so there's like maybe 4 inches of bag left from the bottom. And I put my potatoes in one side and I put my onions in the other. I don't mix them together. And I have no trouble with them being stored side by side. But what you don't want to do, as we learned from previous podcasts, is you don't want to mix your potatoes and onions together, because the ethylene gas from the onions can affect the potatoes. So, but as long as you can store them side by side, as long as you don't mix them, and as long as there's enough air circulation.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for years and I've never had any trouble. But a lot of people will tell you never store potatoes and onions together. But really, it just depends on the conditions. I haven't noticed a lot of difference when I try to keep them separate as far as how long they last.
So you
But,
said good airflow. So is that another key?
Well,
okay,
airspace.
so-
I guess I say airspace.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to put them side by side in a drawer and have them, no airspace at all for them.
Right.
Then they would start to interact with each other.
Yeah. Doesn't need like air circulating, but they
No.
need space. So so far it's cool, dry, better in the dark and with some air space. So
Right. Now, a lot of people put their onions in a wire basket on a countertop, and that's actually a very good way to store onions, is on the countertop.
Yeah. They don't necessarily need to be in the dark.
Right. Like those red Italian onions that we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you hang those somewhere? Didn't he say
You can. It becomes a decoration. I'd buy them for as much a decoration as I would for use, but then you can use them. Okay, so is that all you have for us on potatoes and onions, Rick?
just try to simulate darkness,
Dryness.
cool but not too cold. You don't want to put them in the refrigerator.
Right.
You want to be 50 degrees, just maybe 50 to 58 degrees if you can do that. Most people can't do that.
Yeah, you
So-
can't do it at my house.
Yeah.
Just find the
So-
coolest spot that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
and one question I have is one of the ways you can lose potatoes is when they start to green.
And that's
'Cause
usually caused by light. So that's why you want
Yes.
to keep it in a dark place.
All right. There
And
you
I
go.
keep mine in the pantry with the door closed.
Yeah, that's fine because it's dark in
Yeah,
there.
exactly. And then it sprouts and then it turns green and then like my onions get soft. It's just like I have no luck down here in Florida.
Just buy fewer at a time.
Yeah.
I only buy like, 1 or 2 onions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they get but
One
then
or
I
two
have to buy
onions
I have
would
to
be
buy
gone in
2.
1 or 2 days with at my
Beca-
house.
Exactly.
Oh, come on.
Because they're eaten or because they've
Because
gone
they're
bad.
eaten.
Oh, okay. No,
I eat
so
onions every day.
I
every day,
love
so,
onions, but
yeah.
if I don't cook and I haven't used them, I buy 2. I like to have 2 on hand because if one of them is ugly in the middle, then I'm like, ugh. So I have to have my backup.
Okay. Produce Buzzers podcast fans. We're going to talk next about, it wasn't on the top 10 list as far as what people say they're buying most often, but it has to be on the top 10 list of what people love the most, and which is probably one of the most frustrating fruits or veggies that we buy and just seem to have the most difficulty with. And that is avocados. And Cynthia, in addition to being a world-class banana expert, she's also a world-class avocado expert. So Cynthia, please help our listeners today with how to make sure they get the most out of those avocados.
The most out of avocados, only buy Hass, like your ass. And
those are those ones that go black, pebbly skin.
Yes, they go black. Yes. And
it's about
they're
the only
usually
kind you can buy anymore. Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting.
When I choose my avocados, they might have some blackening on them, but they still have a heavy duty green tint. And although Rick always gives me a hard time, when I press to see if they're going to yield to gentle pressure, I don't stick my tip of my thumb in it. I use the back of my thumb. Just squeeze it. And
bruise.
And so I will just make sure that it has a little bit of give. And then I make sure I carry those in a separate bag. And if I'm not doing self-checkout, I will make them either check it out first or check it out last, because invariably then they get squashed at the end of the conveyor belt, or like what bag boy puts them in with some, something hard. So I guard them with my life. And when I get home, they are just so easy, because in the same bowl that I have my bananas, I will put my avocados, kind of pile them up top, and then wait for them to ripen. And they have been consistent in terms of probably 3 to 4 days ripening. I get them that green so that I can have I'm too nervous to buy the ones that are ripe and ready to eat, because you're going to get those home and who knows what they are going to look like inside.
Yeah.
But if the week has gotten away from me and it hasn't made it on my menu, then once they are 100% ripe and they're all black and they're ready to eat, I will put them in the refrigerator. And or if I'm using half of one, I will cover it with something plastic, or I'll try to put it in a container with a really tight lid. But they're going to get some discoloration, but it's
Just
nothing
on the surface usually.
Yes, just like it's not that bad. But I have kept them in the refrigerator for maybe 10 days, but I could never get to a month out of them like y'all say that you do.
I do get them 1 month.
I
Do you
too.
have them in the drawer? Are they up near
Once
the
they're
dairy?
ripe,
Where
I
are
put- And once they're ripe, I put them in a Tupperware container
Mm-hmm.
and just put them where I don't bruise them up.
Mm-hmm.
And they can last up to 30 days and still be good.
And so maybe with the container, it helps keeping them from getting dehydrated. That's what I find is the worst for mine. Is
I think so.
They're so terribly dehydrated.
Yeah, it keeps the. In fact, when you open it up after 3 weeks or whatever, there's going to be like moisture in there, and I guess if you just put them in the refrigerator without covering them,
Mm-hmm.
they'll probably dehydrate more and maybe.
So when you take off the lid, is like.
No, there's not like a pressure buildup or anything. It's just you can see a lot of humidity.
Condensation.
Yeah, condensation where they've been respirating. Yeah.
You know, the fruit drawer of the refrigerator has more humidity too. So that's a good place to store it.
Right.
Yeah, I would myself, I've never even tried storing them loose in the fruit drawer. I've always put them in a Tupperware container, airtight, and that's what works for me.
That's interesting. I've never done that. I always just put them in the fridge. But once you get them in that fridge at the right, again, it's like the bananas we talked about before. You get to the ripeness that you prefer,
right?
Or maybe a little bit on avocados, a little bit before, I think, even because they'll continue to ripen a bit. But the refrigeration really slows down the ripening process. And I've been able to keep them to it for a month as well, but. It's I usually use them up before a month, so that's one reason why I've never really gotten to a month. But anyway.
Yeah.
All righty, Cynthia. Any more about avocados you want to tell us?
They're so perfect on a tuna fish sandwich.
They are good that way.
Avocado toast is the new trend. Been for a while.
Yep.
Started in California, right?
Of course it did.
No, New Zealand.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well, I was thinking contiguous United States.
Yes. I saw it when I was in New Zealand, and I thought, wonder why people aren't doing this in the U.S. because it's so good. And it wasn't too many years before they started doing it. So
why didn't you come back and push that?
Because at the time I wasn't working avocados. So there.
What about anyone have a good recipe on how to make avocado in a dressing, like an avocado dressing that you would put, it would be liquefied, or you put it on a salad?
In place of like olive oil or something? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I've tried it and it didn't work too well.
Yeah. Well, isn't green goddess salad dressing, isn't that supposed to be made with avocado?
Maybe so.
Probably
But I bet
very
they
little.
still.
I thought that was yogurt or something. Sour
I've tried to
cream,
use
something
it without
yummy like that.
Oil. Just the avocado itself has the oil base, and I've never had very good success. I end up saying, I'd rather just.
What, did you microwave it first or something?
Yeah, I'd rather just slice the avocado up in my salad.
Yeah, that's
that way than make a dressing out of it.
We should tell there are some people out there who think you can ripen an avocado by microwaving it, but we have to debunk that right away. Unless Rick's tried it.
No, I haven't. I've never tried that. It wouldn't be necessary to do that.
No, I remember there were a few hacks, quote unquote, hacky hacks out there about put it in the microwave. I don't know what they thought.
Well, that would soften it up.
Yeah. That's
but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah, but is that ripe or soften or rot or what?
Soften. They probably didn't know what an avocado was supposed to taste like. That's why. Oh, it's soft. I can eat it now because it's soft. But it tastes like
eating the Florida avocados. They have no idea.
Okay. Well, how about freezing avocados? Is that possible?
Yes.
I don't have, I have luck with food that is prepared. I don't do well with
freezing.
Yeah, I did the herbs, and they were okay. The herbs that Melinda sent me, I used them for a little bit, and then I popped them in the freezer. And those actually have no discoloration when I pulled some out, drop it in.
Well,
I
would
that's
never
a really nice product.
I would never want to use frozen avocado or herbs if I can get the fresh thing. But if you're about to lose something, If you're about to
Exactly.
lose it.
Mhm.
I have to clarify. You can freeze avocados,
Yeah.
and you can also cook them in the microwave.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're gonna.
That'd be good. Right. Okay. I've never tried to freeze avocados.
I have, and it loses the consistency, you know.
Yeah. That's what I figured.
It must have to do with like you can't freeze certain fats because they don't homogenize after. You know.
That
Yeah.
might be right. It
Well,
probably
we
would
know
be
that-
okay for like smoothies and sauces.
Yeah, for that it probably would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're going to blend it up later.
Right. Teresa, you had a thought?
I did, but my mental function.
Teresa,
in.
I have never seen her this fried.
I am fried today, I'll tell you.
She's microwaved.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. They do freeze guacamole though. We know that because people
Yeah.
sell frozen guacamole.
But who
so-
knows what they put in it to preserve the color?
Well,
We
when you
don't
have the
know.
guacamole, it's mixed up. So
Well, thank you.
I was
but,
talking about
but-
like a whole. You wouldn't want to freeze a whole avocado.
I have seen online. I've never tried it, but I did see. Actually, no, I take that back. I did last year. I saw that somebody was saying you could freeze a whole avocado. So
Yeah.
I tried it, but it was not very good. And when I
when
thawed
it
it
thaws
out,
out, yeah.
it was just not there anymore.
But like you said, if you took that frozen avocado and then mashed it up into guacamole, it would probably be fine.
Well, I don't think guacamole would be good, but if I was going to make a smoothie or a sauce, I think that
Right.
might be all right. But anyway,
You have to remix everything, you know, to get like Cynthia
And
mentioned,
it just doesn't.
Yeah.
moisture and everything
Yeah.
kind of separates. And
I like my guacamole chunky anyway. So
So Rick, I did just send you a recipe for green goddess dressing made with avocado.
okay,
And it looks like it has vinegar, cilantro. It did have salt. It has olive oil in it. So
that's what I was trying to do, was avoid the oil. I found
Yeah.
some like that you have to put oil with it, but it just
Yeah.
you know what I've done before that's pretty good. It doesn't look so good once you mix it up, but just make a salad, toss salad or whatever kind of salad, and cut the avocado up on top of it, and then pour balsamic vinegar over it. And then I don't mix it up too much because I don't like the way the balsamic vinegar colors everything. But if you just start eating it, that avocado starts to spread through the salad,
Oh yeah.
and you get the balsamic vinegar taste, and that's pretty
Mhm.
good.
Oh yeah, this also has lemon. I bet you could do it without the oil.
Well, I've tried
yeah.
it. I've tried it,
Yeah.
and it didn't work very well.
Doesn't come out.
It's not like a dressing, you know, where it soaks in. It's
Yeah.
just like a blob. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to explain it, but
Well,
I-
maybe you could thin it out with lemon juice because this one adds lemon juice to it. So
that's a good point.
Well, if you use vinegar, it would do the same thing
Yeah,
as the lemon.
you could
juice.
put vinegar in there too.
I think I did that. I think I blended the avocado with vinegar, and it didn't taste that good. Well, I just came to the conclusion I'd rather just cut up the avocado in a salad and use
Yeah. Well, that's
use
good
vinegar,
too.
like Edwin said, the balsamic vinegar. Just put that on there.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it?
Yeah.
Our next culprit on the spoilage scale was number 3 on the list of popularity of fresh fruits and vegetables that consumers said they purchased over the past year. That culprit is tomatoes. And Teresa is going to tell us about how you can get the most out of your tomatoes.
Tomatoes love the heat, but hate the cold. And if you put them in the refrigerator too soon, they'll become soft and mealy. So instead, keep them on the counter and enjoy them when they ripen. And the tomatoes will continue to ripen after being picked. So keep this in mind when selecting them in the store. If you're not going to use them for a couple of days, choose some that are on the firmer side and allow them to ripen on the counter. You know, I've had a lot of luck with the Campari tomato because it has a great flavor to it. And I don't think I've ever lost a Campari tomato.
Really?
They seem to last, you know, forever, but I'm sure you can if you keep them too long.
Are they are they always on the vine, or are they usually on the vine? Because I noticed
No, they're in a plastic box.
never on the
So-
vine. I thought I'd seen them on the vine.
Oh, well, they'll have little vines on.
Okay,
They'll be
yeah.
connected. Some of them will.
I wondered if the vines help preserve tomatoes. Do
Not
they?
really.
No.
Once they pick them, they've already gotten to their ripening point, but they leave that on there for aesthetic reasons to make it.
Well, that was my
You can
question.
smell that.
Right. That's where
The
there's
vine.
a pungent odor from the vine.
Yeah.
That's true.
There's a discount retailer that I go to that I buy the Camparis, and they're not on the vines. They're just like 1 pound in a clamshell, and they taste just as good as the ones that are on the vine. But go ahead, Teresa. I'm sorry.
That's
No,
all right.
that was my fault. I interrupted.
There are actually over 6,000 different varieties of tomatoes. But the Campari had a boost in their fame when they were on The Sopranos
Ha.
in 2002. I guess the cameo helped to increase its relevancy and respect within the Italian American community. And the following year, the Campari tomato recorded more than 50% increase in sales. So
Wow. That was a very
Product
popular
placement.
so I'm sure I'm sure
Yeah.
it did more than just the Italian community. It
Yeah.
covered it everywhere.
yeah,
How did
There's
you
an
first
idea
hear
for
about them?
chestnuts.
I heard about them because I was working for a company that merchandised them.
Yeah.
So-
So quite a while back.
Yeah.
Well,
So
so-
that's when I learned about them. And as soon as I tasted them, I thought, this tastes like a vine ripe out of the garden tomato for the most part. So
Yeah. They are good.
Sometimes
they're really
better.
good. Yeah.
Better than one out of your garden.
They have that right balance of the acid and the sweetness. It's just really good.
Mhm.
Are they grown in greenhouses or in fields?
I think they're greenhouse grown.
Yeah, they're all greenhouse.
I wondered about that. Yeah.
There's only a few companies licensed to grow them.
Ah. Okay. Can't steal the seed.
You probably could, but don't
Couldn't
let them
market
know.
them. You couldn't market them as Campari. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more about tomatoes for us, Teresa? or-
That's pretty much it.
okay.
You
that's
you
good.
can
That's good.
after they're ripe, you can put them in the refrigerator, just like some of these other
And it slows it
vegetables.
down.
It slows it down. You might want to return it to room temperature before you cut it, or do what Rick says, right? What do you say about tomatoes, Rick?
Well, here's a hack that I've done for a long time. Like if I have a large tomato and I'm not going to use the whole thing, if say I only use half of it, I'll put it in a little Tupperware container in the refrigerator. Then the next day, I'll slice it up on a plate and put it in the microwave for about 10 seconds. And it brings it kind of like up to room temperature, and it tastes just like you cut it fresh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You
But
can
you could
do
let
wonders.
it warm up to room temperature also, but
Takes a little
Yeah.
while longer.
Takes
Yeah.
longer.
Oh, the miracles you perform with a microwave, Rick. It's just
Yes,
amazing. I'm
he
just-
does it
Hey.
all.
we got to put chestnuts in the microwave and see how that works.
They would probably
think-
explode.
Yeah, didn't we talk about it? I think you did say you could, but you got to make sure you score them or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you, Produce Buzzers, for your brilliant and sage advice on how to make sure you get the most out of those hard-to-preserve fruits and veggies. I hope the listeners appreciated the information, especially in these times of high inflation. You know, even before the high prices and high inflation, we never liked wasting our fresh produce. But now, with those higher prices, it is even more imperative to take steps to keep those fresh fruits and veggies fresher longer. I wanted to give info on a couple of more items, but I'm sorry to say we've run out of time. So we will have to save those for a future episode. And of course, in almost every episode, we give advice about how to select and store whatever fruit or veggie is the discussion of that day in that episode. So be sure to listen in each and every show to get that information. Please subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends on all the social media channels. Thanks again for joining us. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit, and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page. And check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.